Hello, I'm Benedict Nagy, Park Superintendent for Rockbridge Memorial State Park. Thanks for joining us at the park's namesake Rockbridge to discuss some of the features of the park. After that, I'll hand it off to Roxy Campbell, our park naturalist, to discuss our natural resources and interpretive programming in a little more detail. I'll also briefly talk about Clarks Hill and Jewell Cemetery State Historic Sites, which we also manage, and we'll have a separate video discussing the section of the Katy Trail that we manage. Rockbridge Memorial State Park was established in 1967 as a state park. A local university professor named Lou Storker was instrumental in the founding of this park in memory of his daughter Carol, who was tragically struck and killed by an automobile. Because of this, Lou wanted to establish a park that would provide children a safe place to play and explore. Several local landowners, such as Dennis and Naomi Ingram family, they were also willing to sell their land. And many people in the Columbia community contributed to the fundraising campaign, making this a truly unified community project. We have just under 2,300 acres here, including the 972-acre Gans Creek Wild Area. We have about 27 miles of trails for multiple uses, including hiking, mountain biking, and horseback riding. We have a special use area for youth groups and nonprofits, 2 reservable shelters, and of course, our namesake Rockbridge, which is part of a much larger system of caves and sinkholes. Speaking of caves, many park visitors enjoy the half-mile Devil's Icebox Trail. You can look down from the Devil's Icebox overlook to see the underground river, explore the 160-foot-long Connors Cave, and the 120-foot-long Rockbridge. Devil's Icebox Cave remains closed to protect endangered bats. Our park also contains numerous cultural resources, such as the historic Hickam Cabin, as well as the remains of homesteads and mills that were vital parts of this community in the past. Visitors can learn much more about these by using the self-guided interpretive signs on the Sinkhole Trail. We conduct a variety of programs and stewardship activities throughout the year that Roxy will describe in more detail. And Rockbridge has 1 full-time maintenance worker, park superintendent, and a park naturalist. And then along with several seasonal employees, we're kept very busy mowing park grounds and trails, maintaining and renovating our park buildings, and constant maintenance on the boardwalk here at Devil's Icebox Trail. We are in the early stages of planning for a more comprehensive renovation of the boardwalk to include rebuilding several of the viewing platforms. Another project that we will complete this year is a much needed expansion of the parking areas at the Shooting Star Trailhead. Funding was allocated by the legislature last year for a Missouri Department of Social Services day school, and we are working with the department to determine a suitable location in the park. We are extremely grateful to all of our park volunteers who provide us with a tremendous amount of help with interpretive programs, trail patrols, trail maintenance, and reroutes. Office help, natural resource management, our volunteers help us in all aspects of our management of our park. The Friends of Rockbridge conduct several events throughout the year, including Rockbridge Renew and educational programs. The Columbia Missouri Trail Association, known as COMODA, does nearly all of our trail maintenance work, such as reroutes and clearing down trees from the trail surface. We continue to host a large variety of athletic and other events, such as the Show Me State Games mountain bike race, Rockbridge Revenge Trail Run, and numerous other trail races throughout the year. This year was the first year for us to host the Como Dirt Crits, which are a short, intense version of a mountain bike race. All of these events have been held safely and professionally, and we look forward to hosting many more. At this point, I'd like to hand it off to Roxy to discuss our natural resources and interpretive programming. Roxy?
I'm Roxy Campbell, park naturalist, and I'd like to share with you more detail about the natural resource management and what we do to help people experience nature and learn about it. We have 2,273 acres with a variety of terrain. So we have 17 different natural communities, ranging from woodland, prairie, glade, sinkhole ponds, caves. So there's a lot of variety of natural resources. And, these resources need some management, particularly when it comes to prescribed fire, fire was part of the natural ecosystem, and now it's sort of up to people to return that to the ecosystem. So we manage about 675 acres, about a third of the park with prescribed fire. And we call it prescribed because it is medicine for the native plants and animals in the ecosystem. And of course, we try to do it in a way that's controlled. We have trained staff, we prepare fire line breaks, have the equipment, choose good weather, and monitor as we do the burn. So in a given year, we'll burn about 200 acres because a particular unit is burned only once every 2 to 5 years. Yeah. Also, we've found it necessary to have staff and volunteers work on invasive plant management. Unfortunately, there are non-native plants that can spread aggressively and cause harm to our ecosystem. So we employ a few seasonal workers mostly in the summer months, maybe part-time in the fall. They're usually college students. We also have volunteers that help with this because we have a large park to manage. And the species are ranging from woody ones like bush honeysuckle to herbaceous plants like garlic mustard. And we're careful to use methods, follow Missouri State Park guidelines on herbicides in order to protect native species that are in the area and also water quality. And the reality is that if we don't act, the invasive plants will spread aggressively and we will lose some native species and lose health in the ecosystem. So this is important activity. We encourage volunteers to help. In addition to these things, we monitor our natural resources, see how the plants and animals are doing, and record observations about droughts and floods and such. And we have some certain protocols we follow to monitor certain species like bats, pink planarian, butterflies, frogs and toads, and birds. Several of our species of conservation concern actually live below ground in Devil's Icebox Cave. We have 2 federally endangered species of bats. The gray bats spend their summers here. It's a group of females that give birth to and raise their young in Devil's Icebox Cave. Last year, video monitoring was done and determined that we had about 6,000 gray bats. So we're very happy to know that. It's not faring quite as well for our hibernating bats. We did a survey in January of 2022 and counted 70 hibernating bats, but it did include 1 Indiana bat, which is a federally endangered species. Also in the cave, we have a species of flatworm called the pink planarian that is not known to live anywhere else in the world except Devil's Icebox Cave system. We monitor it in spring and fall, and the numbers are doing pretty good, staying steady. And this species is not technically endangered, but it is on the Missouri Department of Conservation's list as globally imperiled because it does live only here. And it lives in the cave stream. So if the water of the cave stream were to become polluted, it would be endangered. Let's see, and also we need volunteers to help us monitor the cave animals. We have the Devil's Icebox Cave Institute, a group of about 20 very committed volunteers who assist staff with trips. These are all-day long trips. The cave's very extensive, 7th longest in Missouri with 6.8 miles of passageways. So it's important for them to get training and learn those passageways and how to do the trip safely. Last year, we had a special event here in the fall with the Missouri Speleological Society. They are experts at mapping caves. And we knew that we had a number of passageways that were discovered but not mapped. And so on one day, we sent about 25 people on 5 teams into the cave, and they mapped 1,803.5 feet of cave passages that were added to our known cave. So we appreciate all of our volunteers. We also have volunteers who help with interpretive programs. We do those throughout the year. Sort of our highlight is in the spring when we have school groups make field trips. This spring in April and May, we had 14 school groups, and volunteers and I conducted programs 124 times for a total attendance of 2,480. So that's a lot of great experiences for kids. They get to go on Double Ice Bucket Trail, see the Rock Bridge, explore Connor's Cave, and we do programs in addition to that, such as on bats and streams and habitats. And then throughout the year, we have requests from groups such as Boy Scouts, for programs. And we offer programs to the general public. Those range from wildflower walks to history walks to junior naturalist day camp. And also we have an event we hold in June called the Water Festival that's designed for families to really appreciate streams and water. And this year we had our record number. We attend about 450. And yeah, those events couldn't happen without a lot of partnerships and volunteers. So I want to add my thanks to Ben's for all the volunteers and support groups. You've heard that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it definitely takes a team to take care of this park and its visitors. Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, we also manage 2 historic sites, Jewell Cemetery here in Columbia and Clarks Hill Norton State Historic Site just outside of Jefferson City. At Jewell Cemetery, our focus is always keeping it mowed and trimmed and taking care of the flower beds. Rockbridge staff visited on a weekly basis, and several of us were recently trained in the proper techniques for cleaning and preserving the marker stones. At Clarks Hill, we have an active group of volunteers who spend much of their time cutting and treating invasive species such as bush honeysuckle and others. A trail reroute was considered to address erosion, but it wasn't feasible considering the topography and both cultural and natural resources present at the site. I want to thank you for attending our virtual public meeting presentation. Please share this link with your family and friends. If you have any questions at all focusing on operations at Rockbridge Memorial State Park, please feel free to call us at the park office at 573-449-7402. You can email us at rockbridgememorialstatepark@dnr.mo.gov or use the comment section of this video to provide feedback. If you have questions or comments about Missouri State Parks more generally, please email moparks@dnr.mo.gov. Thanks to the citizens of Missouri, our state parks and historic sites are supported by 0.5% of the park soils and water sales tax. This funding ensures that all of Missouri's 93 state parks and historic sites will continue to provide free access to the public. Thanks, and remember, you are always welcome in Missouri State Parks.